It's an art to deal with rejection. And you can only learn this art after you have been rejected multiple times. Unless you face that, it's not going to happen. Like you're not going to feel that. So whoever gets cast or whoever is making stories, it's the uniqueness which makes you different than the crowd.
Hi there, and welcome back to the Reset Mantra. I am Sabeena Maharjan, and I'm so glad you're here. This podcast is all about creating space to pause, reflect, and reset your mind, body, and soul. Whether you're on a walk, driving, or just curled up with your favorite drink, thank you so much for taking time for yourself. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome a truly inspiring guest whose work exemplifies creativity, perseverance, and cultural representation. Jaswant Dev Shrestha is an award-winning actor and an Emmy-winning documentarian whose storytelling has broken boundaries and set new standards. His cultural 5-part non-fiction series, Festivals, earned him an Emmy Award, making history as the first Nepali-American filmmaker to receive such an honor. Hi, Jaswant. Thank you so much for being on the show. I'm really excited you're here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me in. I'm super excited as well.
Yeah, the feeling is mutual. You made history as the first Nepali to ever win an Emmy for your 5-part documentary series Festivals, which we're talking about, and with the episode Festival of Saraswati Puja, earning this incredible recognition. And as someone, who grew up in Nepal, worshiping Saraswati, the goddess of learning and education, this feels really, really special. So first of all, thank you so much for making this vision a reality for everyone to access and for future generations to refer to and learn more about our culture. So during your Emmy acceptance speech for Saraswati Puja, you mentioned it's been 10 years in making. I'm curious to know, what was your life like 10 years ago?
Well, 10 years in the making was mostly just chasing the Emmys. The work I was doing was 20 years, right? So the things were going on. The visualization of trying to make festivals about Nepal was actually lived before that. So participating, trying to be eligible and doing that work was the 10 years. It wasn't 10 years ago I thought about making festivals. This has always been in my back that I want to do something. This is more, I treat it like a love letter to my country. It's preserving my, our stories. Initially, when I was drafting this and how I wanted to make was I had 16 different stories that I wanted to make. 16 episodes. That's why some of them have, a lot of them have been left out because of budgetary, problems and things like that. And these things takes time to do. I have tried to capture all Nepal, not just Kathmandu or Pokhara. When you watch the series, you see the same thing, like the Bhaitika happening in the Pahar in Nepal, in Kathmandu, in Pokhara. So it's a blend of so many things. So it takes time to do these things. And I was really going after trying to raise money to make this happen with channels like Discovery, National Geography. I went to every market possible to go and pitch the idea and show them the trailer and things like that. People were interested, but nobody was willing to put the money out there or, come out, because one thing I always hear is like, oh, I love how much you love your country, but unfortunately it's very small, so there's no market for it, right? That's the one thing I hear from every producer, every, executive that I meet. So, that's unfortunate. So yeah, I wanted to make 16 episodes, and because I had to do it, independently. So I had to choose the only 5. To make it into a weekly show for the channels. That's how, like, Monday to Friday is 5 days, and they usually have 5 episodes of the series going on that way. That's why it ended up being only 5. But hopefully in the future I might be able to continue. So we'll see. Well, it was also not just trying to represent it to the Western world. It was more of, I want to preserve this because it's changing.
Mm.
I want a documentation of films that our future generations, if they are interested in how it used to be 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I wanted there to be some kind of a data that they could go in and see it. And film is the best way to preserve that, you know, because how I grew up or you grew up, it's so much different today. You know, same Tihar is so much differently, you know, celebrated. A lot of the time they're skipping those days. There's no 5 days anymore. A lot of the screenings we do it in the US, and like the kids come to me and say, "Oh, I thought it was only 3 days."
Mm.
You know, so I wanted something like that, and even for my children when they grow up to have something to refer to if they are interested. You know.
So in addition to being a phenomenal documentarian and travel series maker, you're also an actor, and you've been one for a decade or more, right? You wanted to be an actor since the age of 4. And I know that you mentioned Mithun Chakravarti was your,
Idol.
you were inspired by him,
By him.
right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you used to tell your friends that he's your uncle or something. Is
Yeah.
that right?
Yeah. I used to go to school with the 5-star chocolates or dairy milk, and this, oh, my uncle brought it. So acting was always there, off camera. Yeah. I, I really, for some reason, I really connected with him. And initially, I just thought like acting is just, you know, filmmaking is just acting. As I grew up, went to Bombay, and I started exploring more, then I came to know about the technical aspects of filmmaking, writing, directing, editing, and started working with a lot of people as an assistant. And also then it hit me, oh, this is interesting. Actually, you can write, you can make, actually somebody writes this and then becomes a movie, you know? So those parts actually really hit me. You know, there's so many ways to be creative. There's so many ways to tell your story that you want to tell. And actually that made me even stronger as a filmmaker, because I don't want to do everything. You know, I want to work with a large number of people doing their own thing, which is great. Makes it easier on you as well. But at the same time, sometimes there will be projects that you really want to do it, and you might not have enough budget to hire professional people to come and do those things. And in that case, I do tend to wear different hats. And even though it takes a longer time, I do tend to get it done, because that's important for my heart, for my soul.
In one of your interviews, you had mentioned that actors, and now there's all the good sides of being an actor, just like any career, I assume. Now, you also mentioned that actors are one of the most rejected creatures. And with so much competition and countless rejections, how do you reset, I guess, after each of those rejection, right? How do you flip that script to keep moving forward despite those rejections?
You know, you develop along the way, right? It's an art to deal with rejection. And you can only learn this art after you have been rejected multiple times. Because it's something like you can read a book. Oh, you have to do this, that. Unless you actually are in that, or you face that, it's not going to happen. You know, like you're not going to feel that. So in acting, rejection, it's different. It's a silent rejection, right? You get an audition. Your audition, you got this audition because the casting or the production thought that you might be right for this part. Because, you know, and then that has eliminated hundreds of people, if not thousands of people, has been already eliminated just by your headshots and your reels. So they see your headshot, they see what you have in your reel or what work you have done. So you have eliminated a number of people already. And then it comes to this 100 people or whatever that's auditioning, actually putting their script, filming it and learning the lines and sending it over. And sometimes it's pages long. You know, it's a lot of hard work, and you don't get paid for that, by the way. So, you know, it's a part of the game. So you do that, and then you send it over. Sometimes you get like, oh, they get back to you. They want to do more. That's been a case with me, which is very good. They say in Hollywood, when you're getting more different role offer in the same show, or the same office is calling you back again and again because they're interested in you, they like you. It's not just the right part that it's not come across. So, and then sometimes you don't hear anything because, they can't individually go and inform every agent or an actor that, oh, he didn't get it. If there's no answer within a week or so, that means you didn't get it. Just move on, right? So that's how it is. Like, you audition a lot, you don't get it, sometimes you get it, and it's a part of the game. So how do I flip the script is where it comes. It's interesting. I do it. I put my heart and soul into learning those lines and doing what it's need to be, what I think it's right. Might not be right, so you do it, you send it out, you forget about it. It's like, you drank, you forget about it. A lot of the time, how I have done is, if I see somebody is already cast in that and everything like that, or if I don't get it, now how I take it is like, oh, I really liked that audition that I did because I really felt connected when I was doing all those parts. And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry for them. They don't get to work with the most hardworking people in the world. The guy who's gone through so much, he's put so much time and effort, and he would do an excellent job because he does it because he loves it, right? So not that the other person who got it does not love it. He's
right.
Brilliant people. I mean, every actor who gets audition here, every time you get a call back, you are competing with the best of the best. Anybody, any one of you, any one of us could be brilliant in those roles, But I just feel like, oh, so sorry for that production, I didn't get to work with them this time. So that's a positive way of taking it, and and that's what I teach to my kids too. They're like, you didn't get it, it's fine. If they're not lucky enough, you can't change other people's luck. When you so that's how I flip the script.
I love that. I'm just making note for myself because this is something that I talk about often with my guests, the power of self-belief and then the self-talk that you have, right? Like what kind of thoughts are you having about yourself? Because sometimes when we're, if you're, let's say, taking the same example of being rejected, we might say, okay, I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not made for this. Maybe I should look for a plan B. Or maybe there could be many worst case scenarios that you could think about yourself and say to yourself. But I really loved when you said, okay, it sounds like you also developed that over time from being rejected and then to developing that tough shell and to finally saying, okay, too bad for them. They didn't get to work with a hardworking person like me. But I really like that. I think we all need that multivitamin of self-talk, right? So I wanted to pivot a little bit towards as being a fellow like South Asian coming from Nepal, amongst the stories that you tell or the work that you do, how have you managed to stay true to your roots and culture while navigating the living in Hollywood, instead of being influenced by it?
Well, see, I'm not here to change myself, right? I am here to tell the stories and serve who I am as a Nepali, who I am as an artist. So, I mean, obviously, you learn, trying to getting rid of accent and all those things, learning better to be in reading or speaking and everything, all those things come, and you got to adapt to where you are and where you want to work. I can't have a thick accent and try to work in Hollywood, right? So it'll limit me in different ways. But at the same time, it's like, whoever gets cast or whoever is making stories, it's the uniqueness which makes you different than the crowd. So if I adapt to what all the South Asian actors are doing here, then I become one of them. Right? So I'm not here to eliminate or erase my identity. I'm a proud Nepali. I want to be presented as a Nepali, and making time and risking to tell Nepali stories or bringing in a documentary form is something challenging, very, very challenging. Living in the U.S., I mean, you know very well. You live here, living in the U.S., trying to pursue acting in Hollywood, where the biggest competitions are, and also trying to produce your own content, which deals with culture where people say, we love Nepal, but there's no market, right? So I don't know how I'm doing it, but it just comes from my heart. It tells me, you got to do it. I want to do it. I always tell this to my friends when we're talking, or my assistants who comes and, talks about, when we talk about, uh, how to navigate things, or how to stay focused and things like that. I just feel like as an artist, uh, I I identify myself as a poet, and the poet will never wait for somebody's validation to write a poem in the middle of the night. If you feel that, if he or she is feeling it, she will get up, write it down without thinking about who is going to like it, who is going to read it. So exactly the same thing of the stories that I believe in. That's how I approach. This has to be done. It's not as writing one night. In my case, it's not writing one page of poem. It's years of work making that documentary, but it's the same way of thinking. It's the same thought. Like, I want to tell this story. I want to write this poem. I'm going to write it and make it happen. So, and then I've always believed in is when you do something from your heart, when your heart is 100% with you, and you put it out there, people will like it because it's coming from the heart. Because everybody has a when they get to explore it, when they get to see it, they will connect. Then I have believed in that my whole life. I still believe in that, and that's how I approach my work. And as an independent, it takes longer time to make things happen, but it does we can make it happen.
Yeah, and you made it happen, right? Like winning an Emmy, and also being nominated alongside dignitaries like Oprah, Morgan Freeman. Was that for festivals?
No, that was not for festival. This was for the Quest this
For the
year.
Quest.
It was qualified for 5 different categories, and like being a contender in the same category felt like it's a great blessing. Again, as an independent, you are against the studio production with the biggest names, biggest budget, all those things. It's just to be contending, being on that race for now. It's so much satisfying. Well, slowly, it's just a slow progression. That's what I've seen in Hollywood. It's like you climb upstairs. You can't just take an elevator. It's always climbing upstairs. And whoever is gone there has all climbed the stairs. Morgan Freeman was not Morgan Freeman. He has gone through, he has his own share. Oprah has gone through her own share, so it's so much satisfying when you climb up like that, one after the other. And hopefully, the goal is to be able to make shows for the studios and, bigger productions. So it gets a bigger reach, and the Television Academy is qualifying for so many different categories. I was able to go in this year was a blessing. It's like, wow, yes. Yeah, I can't explain in word. It just doesn't do justice to how I feel or how I felt then. So yeah, then the race continues, every year it'll come, and then you just have to then, what is the next thing that I'm going to do that brings it back to the picture, so yeah.
This brings me to the next question of your travel exploration series, right? On a Quest to Portugal with Jaswant. And this is the one which you were nominated alongside those dignitaries. I did some research, and it sounds like on this travel exploration series, right, you really dive into the lives of local people of Portugal, going into their homes, and you're also I saw a clip of joining them on a 10-hour fishing trip in the middle of the night in the Atlantic. And I was very intrigued by, as someone from Nepal, what made you want to create a documentary about Portugal? I mean, it's a beautiful country, right? Beautiful people from what I see. I've not been there yet. But what was
Hmm.
going on in your mind and what made you create a documentary about Portugal?
Well, again, growing up in Nepal, I was always fascinated by the Western world somehow. Like I read about Vasco da Gama. That was my first connection to Portugal, world explorer. And me interested in documentaries and all those things, exploring places and traveling. I was also like, it'd be interesting to do a documentary on not Vasco da Gama, but the country he came from,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah, and then I got to go to Portugal couple times before I decided to do the series there. I was invited for like the tourism festivals there as a guest, and I went there, and when I saw when we went to the countryside and started hanging out with people, I was like, wow, this is great. I want to do a small piece. That's what I told my friends there. I want to do a small piece, a short, maybe 10, 15 minutes doc in here next time when I come around. So when I went back, and so when I decided to do that half hour, 15 minutes, so I was shooting and talking with people and taking, researching more. It became so interesting that like it's a small country, but so much diversity. The south is different, north is different, the middle area is different. There's so much stories in there. And we started filming a lot of the places from the other states or the towns. Used to contact my friend Carlos, who's also an executive producer and the DP on this show. Contact him. He's like, "Oh, you're shooting there? What about us? We have this story. What about us?" It's everywhere. It started, exploding actually with so much information coming in. And then I started connecting with them as like, yeah, I don't have time this time because it's a short time. I have to go back to LA, but please send me these are the stuff that I'm interested in. If you can send me some references and we can Zoom, FaceTime and talk about things, then that's how it started building. So many different things started pouring in. I was like, wow, I want to do all of these. So yeah, that's how it actually, from wanting to do a small thing, led to another, and the 4 years and 3 years is all because of the budget, mind you. It's not going to take me 4 years if it was fully funded. I could do it in 8 months, but then you have to stop in between. You do something else. You get some money, you put it in there. So that's why it takes longer time. It's not actual filming or working. It takes longer time when you try to do so many things, right?
And there was pandemic too, I believe, in
Pandemic,
between,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, the pandemic actually was, it was bad for so many things. So many of my projects didn't get released. I'm really sad about that because it was timely. There was a big Dell national commercial that I did with Neo Morrow, who was the director of 300 movie. It was shot in February. March, we got to pandemic. They hold on till June, and then after that, they scrapped it. So things like that happened. But at the same time, during the pandemic, I was able to finish festivals editing because and then I was started working with my team in Portugal. I had a musician from Portugal for festivals, so we were working offline and yeah, all those via Zoom, listening to the studio when they're working, all those. It was fun. So that happened in that time, and because of the pandemic, as soon as the pandemic was lifted, and okay, now you can travel. US people can travel here and there. And it's like went back to Portugal right away for 2 weeks, added more days to film, and went to all the different places that I went to just film the exterior of those places. So 2019, the same Lisbon that I shot had thousands of people walking around. And I go back, you can literally count how many people are walking while you're filming from the drone. So all those landscapes becomes beautiful as it's intended to be. All those castles, if we fly the drone on the castle, you see zero. people walking around. So it just, yeah, that was the blessing of the pandemic for me, at least.
I think I saw some pictures, I believe one of the articles that was published on a quest to Portugal with Jaswant titled was that you had this big cameras you were holding, like there might be many pictures, but there's this one picture that I can think of. You were carrying this huge equipment and it seemed like you were holding it effortlessly, but it
Yeah,
seemed very heavy to me, you know? It sounds very adventurous to me. Like
it was. So
what?
that's a rig actually for underwater.
Okay.
So I challenged myself to go scuba diving, trying to film the underwater world as well.
Oh,
So
wow.
trying to find dolphins. That dolphin episode is one of the best. Growing up, I've always seen dolphins in the pictures only. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and very fascinated by dolphins, and I made multiple attempts to go and try to film them the way I wanted to see it. Right. So yeah, I had to go back actually another year to go back and try to film again. So that's how that whole episode was done. But you'll see it in 30 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
but it was like multiple years going back to just get that, um, the shot that I wanted. So I challenged myself going inside scuba diving. Never done a scuba diving before, and not a good swimmer as well. So yeah, it's a lot of fun stuff. As I said, like the stories that I'm doing or I want to do, I want to learn as I'm going, so that the viewers can experience it and learn along with me. That's the whole concept of, of anything that I do. Yeah.
Interesting. It's very interesting that you say that you're not a good swimmer and you did the scuba dive to film dolphins the way you wanted to. And I was just talking to my friend yesterday that before this year, I wanted to go scuba dive, but I am not a good swimmer
Mhm.
either, and I have a lot of fear of going for a scuba dive. So my plans are canceled, but just hearing you saying that, it must have been like so much hats off to you for doing that.
Thank you.
So I guess what you talked about, you love to learn as you make these films and documentaries that you make. What did you learn from connecting with people in such a way through making this travel series in Portugal?
Well, the one thing that I've learned, or it confirmed me, is we as humans, we all the same.
Mm.
No matter where we live, our hearts are the same. As long as you're pure, you're true to yourself, I think you connect, with people very, very easily. That's one thing that yeah, because, when I was very young, the image of Europe was like, okay, Eiffel Tower. New York was like Times Square, and that's all you think about, right?
Yeah.
That's what it's presented to us in movies and things like that. So, but just like they are farmers in Portugal, they work in this 110 degrees, doing farming. They have tough life. So yeah, that's what I found was like, humans everywhere where are the same. Yeah.
That's lovely. I guess it's a very humbling experience, right? Just by hearing
Hmm.
it, like we all are different, but we all are really same
Hmm.
at the core. Mm.
So, I have written an animation short story. It's a very beautiful, story. I don't know when I'll be able to make it because this is again, animation becomes expensive, very expensive than the live action movies. This is a short form that, this is based on one of the characters that I met while doing the documentary. Saw this person. I'm not going to give away the story, but I'll just give you the little bit of. I saw this person, and I was in this beautiful, misty morning in a beautiful church in one of the very famous tourist destination. There's a very old photographer standing there, and then when I saw him, like everything, my thoughts started coming in. What? How was he when he was young? What led him to this? I, I didn't talk to him. I didn't ask him. I filmed him a little bit, but I didn't ask him his backstory, nothing. So my mind was saying, I want to write something. It's going to be an animation, and it's going to be my imagination of how his love life was, how he was as a kid, how he ended up here, and why is he still doing photography at the age of 75. So those are the questions that I actually saw. When I saw him, I was like, I want to write this. So I'd spend like about more than a month every day going to the library for 4 hours and writing it. And you think I would have written like thousands of pages by then? It's only 15 pages.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. Okay, so you saw this person, 75 years of old, taking a photographer, taking pictures. So did you go to him and ask about his life story, or did you
I did go
imagine?
to him.
Okay.
I did go to him, but I didn't ask about his life story.
Okay. Why is that? Like, why didn't you ask him? But then, I mean, obviously you are a brilliant storyteller yourself, right? And you might have like your creativity rushing, but I'm curious to know, why did you take that approach of imagining his life, going back to his childhood versus asking him his story?
Well, if I had asked him, then it becomes a documentary. I wanted to keep that liberty of writing a poem based on something I saw. Not the poem, but in this, it's a script, right? It's a short format script. But I think that you could call it like a selfishness, maybe. I don't know.
Would it be your story or his story?
It will be his story, but based on fiction, right? So it's a fictional storyline that I have created based on that one image that I saw of him.
You know, it's very interesting you say it, because I once read this quote. Well, it's not a quote. It's just somebody said, I don't know. It's been on my journal for many months or years. So this is what it said. When you tell, and let me know what you think, okay? Somebody said, when you tell a story, it is not about you. It's about the audience. The audience is not looking at you. They are looking at themselves. Does that make sense to you? Like, what is that?
Sense.
Okay.
Well,
I've not understood this sentence
today. You told me earlier when you saw Mustang, you felt like you were there. So that means you were experiencing that. That's exactly what it's trying to say somehow, because the audience is doing, right? Didn't that line say that it's not about you, it's about the audience. Feeling that thing, being in that, right? So experiencing that. So taking them on a journey as opposed to you being on the journey.
We'll look forward to that story.
Yeah, I hope. Yeah. Now again, that, I finished like about 8 months ago. And then I have not been able to really pursue only that because there's so many multiple things has to be done. But that's something that I'm very, very, very proud of. That story, I think it's gonna connect with everybody every artist will connect with that. An artist, I don't mean filmmaker only. Anybody who's creative will, again, be that character. That's how I put it together. It's like, if you see that, you'll feel like, even though it's a 75-year-old man, it's like, that's me, Sabeena. That's me when I'm 75. That's me. That's what I want to be when I'm 75. So somehow, in not the photographer, not changing into being a photographer. It's being what you want to do, but you know what I mean? So that's how it is. And I personally want to be like that 75. So whatever he's
I can see
following,
that happening. You with the
following
camera,
the
just
passion. Yeah.
following
the passion. Following the passion and what you truly believe in, because ultimately it's the satisfaction you get, right? We can do so many different things. You can do so many different professions, go to so many different professions to make money and have a best lifestyle you can. But are you going to be happy? That's the one thing. That's, I think, we have one life. We need to live it happily.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you wear many hats. You're multi-talented, right? Like you've created so many incredible works from writing, producing, acting, um, doing a voiceover for Disney, for Planes alongside Priyanka Chopra, being an Emmy nominee alongside legends like Oprah Winfrey, Morgan Freeman, Orlando Bloom, and working on various impactful documentaries, right? It, a question for you is, if you had to choose one piece of work that you feel defines you the most, which one would it be and why? So
Well,
far.
on so far, yeah, so far makes it complicated because I'm always like super excited before doing something
Okay.
and put my 110 or 100 and whatever percent there is into it, make it happen, gets it out there, gets recognition, whatever that is. But as soon as I'm done with that project at that time, it just resets it and it just feels like so much to do,
Not
right?
on to
That
next. Like what's
on
next?
to next. It's before even finishing it. I'm not finishing and going to next. It's just like it just adds up. So it's not never it never finishes. I don't want it to finish either. I think that's
Mm,
why it's always piling up. But the thing is, if I, it's always like I feel like, and I say it as well, this is just the first step, is what the famous word is, right? Uh,
mm,
you feel like, oh, if I get this Emmy or if I get to the Oscars, this is 100 step I climb. But as soon as you get there, it's like, oh, this is just the first step. So it's
mm,
like the drive for growth, the drive for creating more, the drive for doing more is always there. So I can't really, I mean, I'm proud of many things that I've done, but it's not the best that is yet to come, right?
okay.
If that answers. So it's hard to pick which one is the best because you at that time you put your heart and soul into it,
Mm.
with whatever limited things you have to make that happen. But yeah, I
No,
know
that
you
makes
didn't get the
sense.
answer, but I know you
No,
didn't get the answer, but
no, what I understood is that the best is yet to come, right? Like
oh
as
yeah,
someone who's creative, I can totally understand, that there's always more that you could deliver. This is not your best. I can do better than this, or. So if you were to tell our audience, right, to go back and look at one piece of your creative work, which one would you refer to them? Like, okay, this is what I recommend you watching, or be it a movie or a documentary that you made or a travel series. Which one would you recommend? One or two?
I think Festival of Tihar.
Festival of the Eye.
It's filmed in a way that I remember 20 years
Mm,
ago. So
I might have
that's the
to.
focus. That's the focus of the thing, like singing and dancing things and all those things, religious things that we do, like cultural stuff we do, that I grew
Mm,
up knowing. Yes, because a lot of the time when I was filming, this time, when they go for Bhailo and everything like that, the Desi Bhailo, the first thing they do is play Hindi music and start dancing to it.
mm-hmm,
But when I was growing up, we used to give asis, we used
mm.
to chant things to
Blessings.
people,
Yeah.
blessings to the house and everything, and then play. Music would be the last part. If you play on a transistor, you used to carry along and play it, but it was, and I didn't find that every time, in my house in Nepal too, when I was in 2019, and they came, it's like first thing is like the music and the latest Bollywood song playing. So
Mm-hmm.
that's one thing is not featured in this Festival of the Art episode. So
So
yeah,
you've tried to capture the essence, the heart of the culture, like the true
yeah,
representation of what it
yeah,
is actually celebrated in.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Used to
love it.
be.
Mm,
hmm
hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
that I would recommend. But again, as I said, that every project that I've worked on could have been so much better, um, in many ways. So that's what I feel like, and yeah, again, best is yet to come.
Best is yet to come. Yes. Okay. All right. So I know we're towards the end of the show. I've put together some really impromptu random questions for you to answer. So what's the first thing you do when you wake up?
When I wake up, I have my Emmy in my room in the corner. So that's what I see first.
Okay.
When I wake up, it's Emmy right there. Come downstairs and drink water.
So when you see that Emmy, what do you think of? Like that first thought?
I need more. She's alone.
Okay. What's your reset mantra?
The reset mantra, the title of the show. One thing that really helps me is just go out in the nature, go for a hike. Sun really helps you. And I tend to go sometimes bicycling as well. So that's something that, I've actually wrote and thought about so many great ideas in Nepal was bike. When I was doing music videos, I had to think about something. I used to put my Walkman. That time used to be the cassette player. Walkman and listen to the song, because every time I was directing a music video, I would listen to it like 100 times, right? More than 100 times. Every beat gets into my mind and what scene is going to be in that. So I used to listen to that while I'm riding my bike. And if I got something interesting, I used to park, write it down on my notes. That's how and same thing with the bicycling. Whenever I go, I don't get to go often, but there's some beautiful trails. When I go, you are in a different zone, and then you get ideas. So many ideas that I want to work in the future in narrative stuff has come through. I've got when I went like that. And while resetting yourself, right? I'm just overwhelmed with so many things. Just want to forget everything and just go.
And you live in LA, so it's a beautiful outdoor. I'm sure there are lots of beautiful biking trails out there.
Oh, there is,
beaches, right?
Yeah, biking trails are amazing in our area.
Yeah. Last one. What's one thing you had to let go of to become your best version?
Worrying about what will happen to the actions that I did in the past. Worrying about why did I do this? Like basically living in the past. As a teenager, as while growing up, you make mistakes, right? You're not proud of that. You do good stuff. You also make mistakes and things like just thinking about those past is past. It's not going to come out. So worrying about that, nobody should do that. Look for today, live today the best we can, especially being with your loved ones, with your family. That's the most important part in my life. Friends are great. Some of them come and go. They're great, support. But the family is on your ups and downs when you're sick. No matter what happens, they're always there for you, and they love you for who you are. That everybody should, we should value that and not live in the past. It was done. You made a mistake. Great. Just move on. Don't make it again.
That's amazing. That's a beautiful reminder. I think living in past is for sure, we hear it all the time, but it's hard to do. Like, how do you not live in the past, right? Because we're human, full of memories. Memories belongs to past, and how do you not think about past? It's very hard. So it's been my mantra as well, just to not live in past, live in present, and like I said, be grateful of what you have today and look forward, right? And look in the past, maybe just to learn lessons.
Yeah, but cherish the moment that you have in past. I'm not saying this don't go. Like, enjoy everything you did, but anything that's hampering, that's concerning you or making you feel low or guilty about something that you did in the past is something that you don't bring. You let that go. But don't let go of those beautiful memories from the past, Beautiful stuff, keep it. Ugly stuff, leave it out.
Gotcha. Well, that was such a beautiful conversation. I know we have only limited time, but there's more to your story and the amazing creative works that you've done. I will put all the links in the show notes below so people can connect with you further and know where to find you. Thank you so much again for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Reset Mantra. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave me a review. I absolutely love reading them. And it helps the people join our little community, which is always a good thing. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Reset Mantra, and I will catch you next time.